Hey, buddy, I got a deal for you. Listen to the podcast and find out. Welcome to the Intentional Success Podcast, where we unpack the top strategies, explore business trends, and drill down into best practices to help your live events production business grow and scale on purpose. I'm your host, Tom Stimson. Hey, welcome back, folks. I would like to talk today about, pricing. Prices, best price, best deal, bottom line offers. I want to help you get to the best number you need to get to. Let's unpack it first, right? What is a price anyway? There is no book of pricing, right? You know this. All of our prices are made up, right? Your price, your neighbor's price, the guy across the street, the guy across the country, they made up their price. Sure, they looked at other people's prices and said, well, my price could be more than that, or my price could be less than that, or I need to put my price here. Yeah, there's some really smart guys that kind of figure out what that price might be. But the fact of the matter is, there's no real science to it. So why do we even have prices? Because let's face it, all that really matters, prices don't make you money. Prices just give you a starting point to negotiate something that might yield some gross profit if you're lucky, in which case you might make some money if your overhead's not too high. So what is a price? I've been thinking about this because what I've come to realize is that the reason we even have prices are because of salespeople. If we didn't, you start a company, you sell stuff on your own, you kind of make up your prices, maybe you've got a pricing system in your head, but when you start to hand that off to somebody else who doesn't think the way that you do, and let's face it, you don't even know how they actually think, you've got to give them a playbook. You got to tell them, well, here's the prices, work from this. And you're trying to take something out of your head and put it into somebody else's head, make it a tool. And so you've got to make them up. And so pricing is merely a construct to control salespeople so that they don't accidentally or intentionally undersell or oversell or, gouge or, make silly mistakes. It's just a control mechanism. And it's not one that we really understand well enough to trust it to control other people. And this is why I've always been a big advocate for, selling from cost plus margin, because cost is much more transparent. We can always find out what our cost is. Price is a number that we've made up, and it's just supposed to stay that way, even though our costs are moving all the time. So that's kind of crazy. So the correlation between price and cost isn't really there. We think it is, but it's not, because prices aren't dynamic. Prices we just kind of set in stone, and we grumble if we raise them. We worry that our clients are going to notice, when the fact of the matter is what they're looking at is the value of the overall deal. Now, they may look at individual prices because we told them to, because we put it on the silly quote. But the fact of the matter is, if we learn how pricing works, we can teach our customers how pricing works. And it's always helpful to start from the extremes, right? Right now in the current buying cycle, and I think this is true for most buying cycles except for 2022, when there was an excess of demand and a dearth of supply, when, price was whatever number you were willing to throw out if you were available, and a smart buyer was going to take anybody who quoted them anything because so many people were telling them they weren't available, right? So that's an anomaly. That's not going to happen very often in your life. But when somebody comes to you, everybody's actually expecting the best price. Now, we all know that the best price is going to vary from circumstance to circumstance, because best price is always circumstantial. Your best price will depend on the time of year, how busy you are, what the client asks for, how the client expects it to be done, the fit and finish, the amount of service they're going to need, whether or not they've got an attitude, right? There's all sorts of things that are going to affect your best price. And your best price for one customer on a given week might be different than your best price for another customer on a given week. So no prices are really set in stone. We're going to affect our perceived value of that price on in any given circumstance, any given situation, request or ask. So knowing that, how do we actually get to the best price, right? And if we're starting from some retail price and some arbitrary discount and, oh, I can throw this in, or I can charge you a 2-day week, or any of these other silly things that we do, that, the 9 different ways that we manipulate a price that all do the exact same thing, which is just get the number lower. How do we just get the number lower? How do you know what your best price is? And this all comes back to that discussion about cost, right? Think about, if you were, back to the beginning of your business, it's just you and some gear, you got your first little storage unit, and you're by yourself, you answer your cell phone, you don't have anything, you have nothing going on. People say, hey, do you have some gear? I need you to come do a show for me. Well, you think, well, my gear's idle. I need cash. There's not a lot of risk. This is a straightforward gig. I've got all the gear. It's free. What do you want to pay me? Well, I want to pay you $600. I said, well, my day rate's $700. Okay, I'll pay you $800. Great, I'll take it. So I'm going to load up my van with gear. I'll go do the gig. I made $800, right? I paid for some fuel. I stopped at Taco Bell. I made money, right? I got $756 left. So that is a best price. Now, on another week, on another day, you're going to feel braver. You're going to go, sure, I've got that package for you. The gear's about $1,200. Technician's about $800. I'll do the job for $2,000. If you pay me in cash, I'll do it for $1,800. I'll do it for $1,800, but I want you to do the job. Well, if you want me to do the job instead of hiring a freelancer, then it's back up to $2,000. Okay, $2,000 it is. Cash? Yes. Okay, this is how we get to best price. We do it based on understanding what our costs are. Okay, and once you know what your costs are, negotiating is easy. How much gross profit do you need to make it worth for you to take the job? It's not how much gross profit would be left over. It's how much do I need? How much do I need to take the job? When I hired freelancers, when I was a booking agent, I always told freelancers that don't give me your qualified rate. Well, if I'm running camera, I do this, but if I'm a director, I do that. If I'm doing tape, I charge this. Give me your off-the-couch price. What is it going to take to get you off the couch to come into work for these days? I might put you on a camera. I might have you run house lights. I may have you sit there and smoke cigarettes and drink coffee. What's your price? Oh, I charge $600 for that. Okay, great. I got work for you. Come on. I want 100% of your brain for 3 days, $600 a day. Do we have a deal? Right? That's a best price. Circumstantial price might be higher, right? Hey, I'm really busy. I can get director work for $900 a day. Great. You should take the director work. I don't have any for you. Right? Pretty simple formula. So now you're a complex business. You got salespeople, you've got staff, you got 25 people on staff running around, you got millions of dollars of gear in the warehouse. How do you figure out what your best price is now? Well, let me tell you, it's actually easier because you got overhead, and you got a ton of overhead, and it's going to take a lot of gross profit to pay for that overhead. If you've got $100,000 of overhead a month, you need $100,000 of gross profit just to break even. And breaking even sucks, right? So every job you look at is an opportunity to add some gross profit to the coffers to get you up where your head is just above water and your nose is getting above water and you can start to breathe. And now all the gross profit starts to turn into net profit, which is money you can spend. Gross profit, overhead, just as money you've already spent. You're already obligated to that. So to get the money that you can actually spend, you need net profit. So my best price until I've covered my overhead is a good deal, right? I'm gonna do everything I can to make sure I hit my nut, is what we call it. I got to make my nut for that month, and then I can keep selling. Now, as we play the field of the big morass of months and days and weeks and years and jobs that come and go and overlap, we get a little bit muddy about this, but we're still looking at that month going, did I cover this month? Did I cover this month? Do I need to sell more aggressively? Can I afford to let this job get away for a few $100s or a few $1,000s? And that's where best price really matters. And it is all based on your cost. And it's not your cost of your overhead or your allocations or this job's share of that. That has nothing to do with it at all. You know, I actually want to shake people who talk about figuring out how to job cost each job by having it share, oh, this much of sales, this much of admin, this much of building rent. Please stop it. Those are all sunk costs. You're obligated for that. You're on the hook for that. That job owes you nothing but the gross profit that customer is willing to let you have. Now, how do you get to that number? Well, if you know what your variable costs are on any job, you're there, right? You look at this as any cost that is generated because you said yes to this job, you know, going back to that, you know, startup guy with some gear in the storage unit, right? He had to stop at Taco Bell and he had to buy gas. Those were his variable costs. That's a very profitable job. His best price is what he's willing to get off the couch for that day, which was $847, whatever the number was. All right. What is your best price? Well, you look at your variable costs, you look at the risks that's involved, and you decide what it's worth to you. Now, is it affected by how much gear is on the show? Of course it is. You got to prep that stuff. Well, think about that as a variable cost. Okay. There's risk involved. Yeah, that's a variable cost. What's the risk on a truckload of gear? You've got, you know, $200,000 worth of gear on a truck. You're going to take it out to a show for a week. It's expected to work. If it fails, you're going to have to give the client their money back. What is that risk worth for you? But again, if your variable costs are low, you can absorb a lot more risk. If your variable costs are high, right, your price is going to have to go up because you have to cover risk and those variable costs. So it's not hard to get to that number because a lot of what we do isn't high risk, right? And high risk things are generally not the, you know, we call around town and find the low ball bidder or the person who'll do it for the cheapest. High risk things are generally, I don't want to take the cheapest quote. I want to take the people that I'm confident, because if it's high risk to you, it's even higher risk to the buyer, right? So there is value in risk, but mostly we're talking about low risk jobs that if you don't throw out your best price, they're going to go to your neighbor who's going to throw out their best price, right? When the buyer's in the seat of control and you're being asked to come up with your best price, okay, and it's a circumstantial situation, the way to get to your best price is look at your variable costs and then add what you think it's worth. Now, here's my formula. I look at my variable costs. I add those numbers up. I look at my labor cost and my logistics cost, because whether it's internal or external, there are hard costs there that deserve to make a profit. I want to make, in my worst day, I want to make 30 points on all of that. So if I've got $10,000 of labor and logistics, okay, I better make $3,000 on that. I've got to account for my other variable costs on that. And everything that's left is equipment. What do I need to make on that? Well, it's hard to tell you what that number is, but I'm going to give you a hint. It's your retail price that you made up, and that discount structure, which you also made up, it's up to 90%. It might be 95%. That gear's sitting on the shelf. It's essentially free. If you can take that $30,000 gig, do it for $10,000 and make $5,000, that's $5,000 you didn't have. That's what a best price is. Well, Tom, the job's worth more. It sure as hell is. Most of our jobs are worth more. We suck at selling. That's my point. But when you need the cash, when you need to get your best price, that's what your best price looks like. It doesn't look that way on another week. It doesn't look that way on another day. It doesn't look that way for another customer. All best prices are circumstantial. But before you start turning down bid or turning your nose up at money, because we're going to talk about best deal here in a second, you better understand what your best price is. If you haven't made your nut, you got overhead to cover, and it's the 10th of the month, and you don't have anything on the books, take the $5,000. Take the $5,000, do the best damn job you could do, and keep it going, right? That's your best price. Now, best deal is different. When a customer comes to you with the best deal, we just turn the tables, right? The best deal is you, customer, tell me what you want and what you want to spend on it. I'll tell you not whether or not I want to do it. You tell me what you want to spend. I'll tell you what I can do for it. That's a best deal conversation. I got $10,000. What can you do for me? I can do this. Well, you know what? That's another good way of looking at it. Because if I said, look, I got $10,000 for you. I got a bunch of stuff I want. I can get you all the stuff. I've got the people. You're doing the math in your head. Yeah, I'll make $5,000-6,000 on this. Sure, I'll do it. $10,000. Wait a minute. How's that any different than your best price? Psychologically, it's different because you came to the number instead of being forced to the number. So when you're in a situation where you're trying to figure out how you're going to win this job that you actually need, and you know you're going to have to lower your numbers to get there, what's the psychological trigger for you that works? Best deal or best price? How are you going to frame it to the customer? I'm going to give you my best price. I do not have a lower price. You're never going to get this price again. Okay. I will give you this price. It is good for the next 24 hours. If you don't confirm by 5 o'clock tomorrow, it is off the table. This is a cash price. I'll need the money on Friday. Okay. It is $10,000. Can you do it for 9? No, I cannot. I'll let you sit on it until 5 o'clock tomorrow. Right. Or based on that response, 5 o'clock today. So best deal is, what do you have to spend? I've got $10,000. I said, can you make it 12? Okay, I really have 11. Okay, $11,000. Here's what I can do for you. That extra $1,000 just bought them a ton of goodwill, right? I'm going to give you these technicians. I'm going to give you this gear. I'm going to throw this in for you. $11,000. I need you to confirm today. I need to start prepping it. I need payment by tomorrow. Do we have a deal? All right. In these circumstances, when you're in these times, you need to be in the moment. You need to understand what your costs are. You need to understand what the yield on the project's going to be. And you need to negotiate openly. And you never show prices. Individual prices are never part of the conversation. And that's the final point I want to make on this. And when you're negotiating a best deal or best price on something, you're negotiating one number. We never show more than one number. We never show item. Well, I need to see your itemized prices. No, you're not going to see it. You're not going to see my itemized prices. You're not going to see a discount. There's no way I'm going to let you trot this deal out to other people and say, hey, I got these $1,000 a day cameras for $100 a day. No, we're not going to play that game. I'm going to tell you what the deal is, take it or leave it. I'm not going to show you my math because it's made up anyway. So I hope that helps you have a better frame of mind when you're in a cash crunch. You need to make the next deal. You need to fill up the calendar. You've got a price shopper, but you know you can help them. Reframe the conversation. Understand what best price is. Understand what a best deal is. Look at your variable costs. Look at the gross profit that job will give you. Ignore your prices because they have nothing to do with anything. All that matters are your costs. And go get that deal. That money spends just like the money you got on the deal last week. Thanks for listening. If you want to find out more about today's episode, go to trstimson.com/podcast, where you'll find the show notes, related links, and tons of other valuable resources. If you haven't already subscribed to the Intentional Success Podcast, please do so, and I'd greatly appreciate if you would rate and review the show. Also, if you think you might be a good fit to work together or want more information about the Stimson Group, I'd love to hear from you. Visit trstimson.com for more information.